Hello and welcome to American History Learner. I am the editor of this theoretical newspaper, but also your instructor. My name's Anthony Dunn. I'm hoping to put a face with the course and make this a little bit more of a personal experience and bring you a couple of these messages or mini podcasts throughout the semester in an effort to help facilitate success in this course. What I want to do is just talk about some things that I'll be looking for in the assignments, and also some things that maybe can help you find greater success, but also put you onto different ideas and make this a more rewarding experience. But before I get started with that, I want to reemphasize the importance, or one element of this course that I'm really particularly proud of, or that I like to use, and that is the conditional release functioning of Moodle. And what I call this is like guided learning. And what I am trying to do is create an experience where you do it in the proper manner. So what I do is I use this function of Moodle to help to make it so that you have to complete a series of tasks before you can do something. In this case, generally what I do is I make you access a series of resources before you can submit assignment, or before you can take a test. You have to access the test reviews. It seems a logical process. So make sure that you are aware of this. In this case, this week, you have 3 conditions for being able to submit this assignment. You have to view the instructions. You have to view these additional resources, an obituary of a journalist, which I find fitting, since that this is kind of the theme of this course in some ways. And then also an example of an obituary that might be helpful in how to frame this, maybe some of the language that's used and some of the different styles. Now, once you've completed a task and viewed it, these boxes will become checked. So before I access these resources, these were unchecked. Now, if you access the resource and it still does not give you the check mark, all you got to do is give Moodle a good refresh, and what it will do is it will open up. Now, if I was in student mode, this assignment right here would be open, and since I'm in instructor mode, it always stays grayed out. Now, let's jump into the assignment and talk about a couple of things that I think will be helpful for your success. Like any good company, you're going to have to work your way up. So you're starting in the basement, you're starting in the morgue, and you're writing an obituary this week. I hope you find that to be as clever as I did when I created this assignment. But what I've done is I've given you a selection of names and figures, historical individuals from the early section of our course, from the first 3 chapters, that have some historical significance. What they do is they relate, or they signify, they represent some particular historical concepts that are very important to American history, right? And so what I want you to do is, first, you're going to write a minimum of a 1-page, size 12 times New Roman font obituary on one of the selected individuals. First, just to prevent people from making a common error that has been made semester after semester, for some reason people confuse Andrew Johnson with Andrew Jackson. You will be, if you choose, you only have to select one individual. If you choose Andrew Johnson, please do not confuse him with Old Hickory, Andrew Jackson, Trail of Tears, the general, the kind of very irascible personality. Instead, you need to focus on the president that followed Abraham Lincoln. He was vice president. He assumed the presidency after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. He's commonly associated with Reconstruction and some of the elements that go along with that. This is the guy they attempted to impeach him at one point. So the very guys that loved him at one moment later on viewed him in a different light. So just do not confuse those two people. Now let's talk about the 6 things that I believe that are helpful. I have 5 listed. I'm going to send you an email of the 6 things, the 6th item. What are the things that you need to do to make sure that you find success in this assignment? Number 1, the framework of this assignment is an obituary. While we're writing an obituary, the goal is to strike at the historical significance of someone, but we're trying to do it through this creative outlet of an obituary. So what does an obituary do? It generally notes the time, the death, the location, the cause of death of an individual, and then it highlights some of the basic elements of their life. and it's a little tribute to that person generally. So you'll need to make sure that you have those basic elements of an obituary. But second, and most importantly, the goal of this assignment, this is a history class. While we have this theme and we have an interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary learning style, still at the end of the day is to try to better understand American history and the significance of that past. So for example, in the first assignment, you had to write a cover letter. While it was to the framework of a cover letter, what I was trying to get the assignment sought to do was try to get you to consider the value of studying the past, why college students take a history course, and why it's helpful to American citizens to take American history, and to talk about some of the things that historians do and how their process is. Primary and secondary sources. What are the limitations? What are the characteristics of these sources? So while you were submitting a cover letter, you were learning about history. You were learning about American history and the value of it. But at the same time, one of the best parts of this assignment is you are also learning a very practical skill, is that hopefully all of you will be employed one day, and more than likely at some point in your life you will need to write a cover letter. So you got a little experience in this, and you got a taste of that. So you're learning history and practicing something of academic value as well. In this case, you're writing an obituary, but the main significance, the case is that more than likely maybe one day you will have to write an obituary for a family member or something like that, or celebrate an individual's life at their funeral. But for the most part, what we're trying to do is identify the historical significance of an individual and relate it to a time period and a historical concept. So, most importantly, this assignment should be focused on what was the historical significance of that individual. What was their legacy? Why did I add them to this list? I could have chosen 10,000 different people, because everybody has some sort of significance, and at least in my mind, historically, they can be used to represent a period, represent a concept, or to better understand something. But I selected these individuals. Why? Right? What was their historical significance? What was their legacy? And to do this, generally what you do is you talk about some specific elements of their life, some of their personal achievements, some of the things that we most remember them for. But how do you, at the end of the day, make sure you strike at the historical significance of an individual? And I think if I could give you one piece of advice, the best way to do this is to place them in the context of a greater conversation. Place them in the historical context of what was happening in America, or what their life really kind of gives us a window into. When you talk about Andrew Johnson and his significance, we're really thinking about the aftermath of the Civil War, Reconstruction, and some of the conflict and differing views that go with that viewpoint, or that period. It's political, it's social, it's economic, it's all of those. In many ways, if you're talking about Reconstruction and you don't talk about Andrew Johnson, it's kind of a strange thing. Reconstruction shaped Andrew Johnson, and Andrew Johnson shaped Reconstruction. So similarly, if you're talking about Sitting Bull, right, what we're talking about here is that, yes, you're talking about an individual chief who was a warrior, who, he lived, he died, he took part in he was at Custer's Last Stand. All of these things, these are individual things, but he also he's helpful in understanding American expansionism into the West, how American culture, United States history, how that often came into conflict with Native American culture. So these are the things that you can do. Is the best way to strike at the historical significance of someone is to place them into the broader historical discussion. Next, what I want you to do is remember that to do this effectively, you don't just compliment people only all the time. While we celebrate an individual's life in an obituary, one of the things that you need to do is really try to describe them in objective. And by being but by being objective, I guess you would say, by being fair, by highlighting the good as also the bad, you really are celebrating their life most effectively. So some of the things is that not all of these should just be entirely glowing descriptions, but in understanding someone's life, you have to also talk about some of the things that maybe potentially are not the most celebrated or flowery aspects of their life. Number 5, what I want you to do is I always want you to be creative and apply information in this course rather than just trying to remember it. That's the most important thing in life, is to understand and to apply and to think critically rather than the read and test mentality that we have been so indoctrinated with. So one of the small ways that you can do this in this course is to always work to provide a creative title. Right? You could say Andrew Johnson obituary, but really it shows very little thought and contemplation about what the significance of that individual was. And this is a great opportunity to show, hey, I've really come and boiled down to a single phrase what this submission, what this paper, in this case obituary, later it's going to be a 3 to 5 page paper, what it's meant to do. Like that one thing, if you've seen City Slickers that Curly talked about, what's that one thing that really captures the essence of your submission? And this makes things fun. This makes it enjoyable. It makes it so it's not just an assignment, but really putting your stamp on this. Now last, what I want to talk about is how we do this most effectively, where we go, where we look, what types of sources. What I want you to do is provide a basic citation of where you got this information from. Whether this is a footnote, an endnote, or a bibliography, I just want you to make an effort to show that, hey, the vast majority of this research came from here. Now, I'm not concerned with APA, MLA, or Chicago style. Historians practice Chicago style generally. It is the superior style, in my opinion. I am a historian. But what I am just interested in is giving credit where credit is due and showing that you recognize that while you're putting an interpretation on this, is that it was based off of this set of information. But where's the best place to start? It's not Wikipedia. It's not Google. Generally, the best place to start in anything in this course is the textbook. We have a wonderfully, beautifully composed textbook. I've had the fortune of talking with the author. This is an invaluable resource, but what it does is it helps to give you start in the right direction. Instead of getting overwhelmed with the mundane, overwhelmed with the trivial type elements of something, the names and dates only, this text is focused on the larger historical significance, the larger historical picture in relation to American history. And that is the goal at the end of the day of this course. So start there and then branch out rather than vice versa. All right. As always, feel free to send me an email. Call me if you need any help with an assignment, or if you just want to bounce some ideas off of each other, I'll be more than happy to do that. But be sure you put every bit, you work hard to meet these objectives, because this is what I'm looking for. And I expect a lot out of my students, and it's only going to get more rigorous and more strenuous, but you're going to be set up. If you're doing this in the right way now, it's going to make it much easier later on throughout the semester.